Hey guys, what's up? It's that time of year again where I'm essentially doing a little bit of a reset for some of my plants. And what I mean by that is during winter time, I've noticed that because I give my plants a little bit more TLC in the sense that I'm giving it more light, more humidity, maybe even heat. When you give your plants these conditions, it'll just start to grow and thrive for you. But of course, you know, it can be overgrown or look a little bit straggly. So in this video, I'm going to be resetting 5 plants. I actually want to start with this one because y'all had a lot to say about it in my previous video. This is my Florida Beauty, and as you guys know, this was a plant that I said was probably not going to stay with me in 2023. And what I meant by that was I was just gonna let it just do its thing, and if it survived, then I would be doing what I'm doing today, which is resetting it. I didn't mean that I was gonna just throw it away. What do you take me for? I meant any plants that were clearly rotting, clearly not gonna make it, those got chucked, okay? But this Florida Beauty put off a new leaf, and I even said I'm very surprised by it. So it's actually gonna get reset today. So a lot of you guys were suggesting that I should just kind of put, what is it? Moss? I'm trying to focus, I'm sorry. There you go. You guys were suggesting that I put moss right over here. And that's actually what I'm gonna do. Usually, I like to water propagate, where I would just take a cutting and throw it in water, but I've noticed that with Florida Beauties, they don't like that. I don't know why, but they just don't like it. So I'm gonna go ahead and start air layering this, so that way in the springtime, I can give it a cut and maybe put it in semi-hydro and let it continue to do its thing. So I have here some sphagnum moss and plastic wrap. So I'm gonna go ahead and just wrap this whole area up, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks it'll start to produce roots from the aerial roots, and then I can give it a snip in the springtime. And I feel like this is actually going to end up being very top heavy. So I also have one of the acrylic sticks here, so that I'm actually just going to tape this to the acrylic stick to give it some support so it doesn't like topple over. Now these acrylic sticks I purchased off of Amazon. It's just your basic acrylic dowels, and I'm just gonna put it like maybe like this, yeah, and then have some tape with lots of hair on it. I have dogs, I have 3 of them, life happens, and there you go. So I'm now gonna put this back in the IKEA cabinet and just let it, you know, do its thing and air layer. All right, so the next plant that I kind of started pruning and sprucing up already is this Alocasia Frederick. Now, this is one of my most favorite tissue cultures that's variegated. It's just look at the leaves. Makes me so happy. And you know, it actually really impressed me even more considering the fact that we are like in the dead of winter. It's negative 15 degrees outside, and this plant has been growing and thriving in normal room temperature, normal humidity, no extra anything, and it's retaining its leaves, you know? And what I mean by I kind of jumped the gun on this one, I started trimming the leaves that were kind of dying earlier, but I didn't want to like not include it in this video. So these were the leaves that were actually on the plant, and I know a lot of people would say or would argue and say that, oh my gosh, you should have just left the leaves on the plant because it's going to use the energy from here into the plant itself and what have you. But I actually think that this plant is severely root bound because there's actually 2 stalks in here. So I think it needs to be repotted for sure, which I think I'll do in my part 2 video for resetting my plants. But yeah, so this is just gonna get trimmed. I feel like it's a lot for this plant to try to hold on to its leaves. I feel like I get more drop leaves during the winter time rather than the summertime. So personally for me, I think this plant needed me to kind of prune the leaves because it was trying to hold on to it. Versus in the summertime, like it would just go like that. It would just wilt, die, and that's it, like in a blink of an eye. But because it's winter time and I want it to try to retain some leaves, that's the reason why I'm pruning it, because you know, we're in January and it's still going strong. But maybe in a part 2, I will show you guys how I'm gonna repot this bad boy. All right, so the next plant that I have that I need to kind of reset is this Philodendron Amazon Sunset. Now I purchased this from Ecuagenera probably 2 years ago, and this is the newest leaf it's given me. I don't know if it's focusing. I hope it is. No, it's not. Ah, there you go. So this is the newest leaf it's given me. It's super fuzzy in the back, very red. That's how it gets its name. So, you know, it's a stunning plant. However, as you can see, it has no bottom leaves. And one can argue that perhaps it's because I need to repot it. But you know what? Ever since I've had this plant, it's always dropped leaves. It's always put off a leaf, dropped a leaf, put off a leaf, dropped a leaf. So I'm starting to think that this plant is very finicky, and I definitely want to reset it because it has like a lot of, I don't know if you guys can see, but right here, it has a lot of aerial roots that I can take advantage of and just kind of air layer that area. I don't think it's focusing. I'm sorry. But just trust me, there's a lot of aerial roots that's going on right over here. So I'm gonna put moss all up in here in this area. So that way, come springtime, I can just like snip it. Now, as you can see, these are the dead, the dead leaves that once belonged to this plant. So yeah, it definitely needs to be reset. So I'm gonna go ahead and just moss this bad boy up. As you guys know, I like to soak my moss in HB 101, so that way it has some nutrients for the plant. And I also gave it a little bit of HydroGuard. I think my logic with putting HydroGuard in while it was soaking was so that it didn't develop any root rot, which I don't find that when I'm air layering I get root rot, but I don't know. I had some HydroGuard, so I figured, meh, why not? What's the worst that can happen? It won't develop root rot, or maybe it will. I don't know. I'll let you guys know if that ever happens. So the only thing now is that I need to kind of, there we go, bend this a little bit so that I can clip this on, and then I'm gonna tape it to the stick. You know, keeping this moss moist is going to be a real challenge later on. So I'm going to have to use a little squeezy bottle and put it in from the top here. But there she is. She's looking fine now. She looks like she's wearing a cast, to be honest. But yeah, can't wait for this to, you know, start putting off aerial roots and give it a good snip. And then I'm probably gonna just throw away the bottom. Like, I think someone had said in my previous video when I was kind of like throwing away plants that I could propagate and, you know, like, okay, it's true. I can propagate these plants. It's true. But then I would just have a bunch of it. And I don't know about you or where you are, but prices for plants have gone down. And I feel like these type of plants are just considered more common now, that you can just easily go pick it up off Facebook Market or off Equigenera. It's like very affordable. So I'm just pruning. I'm keeping what I want, and I'm pruning and throwing away what does not provide me any any joy. The other thing is also, I don't want to be holding on to like these little bits right here that have fully, you know, dried up and have no purpose. Like when you're holding on to things that are dead, do you see that? I don't know if you saw that, but there's like dust that comes off of here, and it's just like, you know, it's dust, and it can eventually create mold in your little greenhouse area. So I personally don't like to hold on to things that are currently dying, because it's just going to spread and, you know, attack the other healthy plants. So that's the reason why I usually routinely go around and clip things that look like they're dying or just do not serve any more purpose. I mean, to each their own. Everyone parents differently. That's just how I maintain my plant area. So it's been working so far. I mean, if y'all like to keep things until it's like fully dead or what have you, that's do you. But yeah, so that's, I'm sorry, I got off topic. Here she is. She's fine now. I'm gonna go ahead and put her back in her greenhouse later. Oh, one thing that I do want to mention about this particular plant, I do find that it's very finicky. I don't even know if I mentioned it earlier because I went off topic, but I've noticed that fuzzy or velvety plants like this really enjoy like high humidity environments. So I think the reason why this plant started to kind of like push off bigger leaves and nicer leaves that are more or less perfect is because it's in the bottom of the greenhouse that I have, and it's fairly humid in there. So I think it's like 90% humid. And yeah, I think if you want to really get this plant to like push off bigger leaves for you, you really need to give it the condition that it needs. Otherwise you'll just have a very long vine and no leaves. But let's see what I can do with this plant. I'm hoping that, you know, it chooses to grow and thrive under my care. And you know, I really did fall in love with the Amazon sunset because of the back of the leaves. So yeah, I really hope that this reset does it some good. Oh, this plant right here definitely needs to be chopped up because it's a mess right now. So this is my Monstera. What is this called? My Monstera ansonii aura. So this is how it looks. She's very pretty, but you know, it definitely needs to be repotted for sure. And the variegated leaves are kind of looking really sad right now. And I think it was because it is at the bottom of the little greenhouse that it's in. So it probably received too much humidity. So that's why it's starting to brown. But it definitely needs to be cut because it's very overgrown. And I feel like I'm going to start losing the leaves down here. So up here, it looks so sad. Look at this. This is like, that needs to go. This also needs to go. And then it tried to put off a leaf here and it's just, there it is. So yeah, you can see the aerial roots that it's put off. So this was residing in the IKEA cabinet and it was in the corner. So these aerial roots right here were actually growing into the corner of the IKEA cabinet. So removing this terrified me because I was like, oh, I really don't want to break it. But yeah, this is very overgrown. So what I'm actually going to do with this plant to reset it is I had already removed anything that I feel like was dying and serves no purpose. This can go too. And I want to give it a cut right here because these leaves look very healthy. They look really good, and it deserves, well, I deserve a top cut. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a cut here. Actually, maybe I'll do it further down so that way if it decides to not make it, it'll be fine. So there. Now I have 2 plants. Now I chose to cut further down because I noticed that this leaf looks like it's on its way out anyways. So that'll be fine. This whole vine will probably use this leaf as energy to sustain itself. And look at these aerial roots. They look intense, to be honest. Super intense. But it's a pretty legit top cut. I actually originally wanted to cut like a mid cut of it, of the entire vine. So I was gonna cut from here, but also cut it off here. But these guys just kind of like shriveled off real good. So I'm gonna leave it alone. And yeah, I think what I'll do is put this in water. But it's so fuzzy. I don't even know what to do with it at the moment. Let me think about this. No, I'm gonna put it in water. I'm gonna water root it. If it starts to grow mold or what have you, then I'll take it out and dry it and then put it in some moss. But I think it should be okay in water. Once it starts to produce secondary roots, then I'll quickly transfer it to soil. But I think this will be fine. As for this, definitely gonna repot this because some of y'all are just gonna come for me in the comment section and say, what are you doing? That's just abuse. So I have 2 types of nursery pots that I can use. I purchased them both off of Temu and they were like really cheap and it was free shipping. I think it's free shipping if you spend over $20. Yeah. In any case, I purchased 5 of these and I think they were like $4, which is pretty good. And they do have different sizes. Like this was the medium size and I have a larger size as well. And this one, it came in a pack of 3 for $3, I think. Oops, for $3. And I actually really like these ones and I want to almost transition a lot of my anthuriums into this type of container because it has like the slits on the side for aeration, which is very nice. Like this has it too, but I don't know. I can't decide. I mean, I can decide. I've already chosen. But this one, I think it'll fit more of your like cash pots for decoration. Whereas this one, I mean, it'll fit into a round container, but sometimes it may not be perfect. Either way, I think that they're both cute. I will link it down below for you if you're interested in picking these up. So yes, to each their own type of pots as well. And I did get asked in my previous video what type of soil I use. It really depends on the plant and my mood. If I plan on keeping the plants in no drainage, I most likely will transition it to semi-hydro. And I find myself putting my plants in semi-hydro when I'm in this phase or stage in the plant's life. I don't even think that makes sense. What I'm trying to say is, if I am propagating my plants in water, I will most likely keep it in water and keep it in semi-hydro. If the plant has been given to me or if I purchased the plant and it was in soil, I'm gonna leave it as it is because it has soil roots and I'm not going through that heartache of, you know, transitioning from water roots to soil roots because that's just too much, way too much. So this plant will stay in soil. It's very overgrown, lots of roots. So what I have here is actually, and I do mix up my substrate quite a bit, even for soil. So I have in here coco coir, charcoal, orchid bark, some moss, I think, perlite, chunky perlite, and I think I see a little bit of tree fern fiber, old ponds, and Leica. So it's just whatever I have, to be honest with you. Because if the plant is already happy with where it is, I don't like to mess around with it too much and switch it up. So let's go ahead and take this out. Oh yeah, look at it. Definitely needs to be repotted. So the way that I like to repot my plants that are in soil is I'll break up the bottom. I won't break up the root ball, but I will break up the bottom so that, you know, the roots kind of are disturbed. It shakes up the plant, tells it to wake up and, you know, focus on stabilizing the root system, because I am like disturbing it. I think that's good. Some people, I've seen some people like literally like tear the roots. I'm not about that. I mean, if I tear the roots by accident, that's fine, but I'm not about to just, you know, rip it, because then you're gonna have some roots that are dying in your pot, and then, you know, you're putting your plant at risk of root rot and what have you. So, put that in there. So today is kind of like a reset day for me too, in the sense that, you know, this week everyone kind of went back to work, and I don't know about you, but work to me I love. But when you've been kind of away for a little bit, getting back into the swing of things is kind of hard. Or not so much hard, but like it takes a toll on your body mentally and physically, especially if your job is very demanding. So I noticed that this week I was like very tired, but it's probably because I was up at 5 every day. But yeah, it's gonna be a reset day for myself as well, which is why I am, you know, in my plant room checking out my plants, because I want to spend time with my plants and take care of them. And this is my way of resetting. It's like why I got into plants during COVID. It's supposed to be like a stress reliever. Sometimes plants just stress you out in general when they start dying, but you know, we do what we can. So I think this is it. I'm gonna give it a little stick here, this acrylic stick, so that it can kind of grow and mount itself on. And yeah, I think we're done with this one here. All right, so here she is all potted up. I'm gonna have to give her a nice drink of water later, because the substrate is actually really very dry. Oops. As you know, I like to kind of like moisten my substrate before I repot, just because that way the roots aren't dry. So I will 100% give it a drink of water. Now, as for this top cut right here, she is looking so cute, like this leaf. I don't know, there's something about this leaf. I love this leaf. I'm gonna go ahead and just put it in some water and just hope that it does its thing. I don't think I usually propagate vining plants. Yeah, I think I have the most trouble with vining plants. I don't know what it is. Like any aroid that I've had that grows horizontally, like they're crawlers, I have no issues propagating them and keeping them alive. But vining plants, I seem to have an issue with. Like my Thai constellation, it just threw a fit. But then I remembered that when you're, what am I trying to say? So the Thai constellation was originally in a whole lot of ponds and semi-hydro substrate, and then I kind of added what is it, tree fern fiber and some coco coir. So that Thai constellation decided to just started to have a fit, and I noticed that the aerial root started to like rot on me, so I immediately took it out and cleaned it. But then I realized that a lot of the roots were still pretty healthy, and duh. The plant itself was probably trying to transition from like water roots to soil roots. But in any case, the Thai constellation, I'm gonna have to film another video on. It's like a whole thing, I swear. But yeah, this I will put in water. The last plant that I already did a chop on was this Escalito. I showed you guys this before in my, you know, plants that were not going to stay with me. And yeah, so I gave it a cut already. You know, I don't know. I keep going back and forth with this Escalito where I'm like, oh, but it's not so bad. It doesn't look that bad. But then I'm like, I just don't have the space, you know? I'm tired of trying to make it work. It's like a really bad relationship. But in any case, like I said, a lot of you guys had some comments about it. So I gave it a cut. It is now hanging out in water. It hasn't done anything. So, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully it starts to produce some roots soon for me. It looks like it will. Yeah. So cold water and HydroGuard. I've noticed that this has actually been sitting in water for, I think, 2.5 weeks now, and it hasn't produced like any roots for me. So I'm thinking what I'll do is actually put it in, put it underneath, not underneath, put it on top of a heating mat to just kind of like give it what it wants, just to get it to grow. And as for this Escalito, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just repot this because I don't need anybody leaving their comments just saying like kind of terrible person I am for not repotting. So I will go ahead and repot this. It's very root bound. Ooh. Yeah, it'll go into here. Get my gloves back on. And I will spruce it up, treat it, and then I guess like give it away. Like I just don't want it anymore, but it's a perfectly good plant and it's, you know, trying to survive. So let's just give it away to a new home that will appreciate it. Had it started to really, you know, die on me and just showed no will, I would have just chucked it. I'm not gonna lie. All right, so here it is all potted up. I did give it a acrylic arch trellis to kind of hold itself up, and I also gave it another cut here just to cut the vine down so it can be a little bit more bushier. And you know what? It actually looks kind of cute now. I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty cute. So I may end up keeping it. Yeah, we'll see how it does. I find that Escalitos are very easy to propagate and grow. But I think it's also kind of finicky in the sense that it needs really good conditions where it wants more humidity, more light because of the leaves. Because like I find that any plant that has foliage like this that's very holy requires more humidity just so that it can unfurl nicer. So yeah. But yeah, those are all of the plants that I had for today that I needed to reset. I think next week I'm gonna do another reset video and maybe a tissue culture video just to update you guys on some of my tissue cultures. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below if around this time of year you guys also kind of prune back your plants to propagate or to just give it, you know, a little oomph for the springtime. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.